Welcome back. It's the BS Sports Show. Good afternoon. Thank you for hanging out with us right here on ESPN Radio, 106.7 FM, 1380 AM. He's at Billy Elvis on Twitter. I'm at Stiller BS. We point that out for good reason. One, we like to talk to you via Twitter. Two, we've got an expert in that realm on the line joining us now. Spurned and started from the announcement of what was Derek Jeter going to do after baseball. Well, he launched the website, thePlayersTribune.com.
Yes, on the line with us from WebiMax, Ken Wisnefski, who's an expert on social media and reputation management. Ken, thanks a lot for joining us on the show today, man.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So Derek Jeter wanted to give an outlet for fellow athletes to get their story straight, if you will. Tell me the idea behind this venture. Obviously somebody came to Derek and said, "Hey, Derek, here's a great idea. You got such a clean-cut image. You'd be the best guy for this business venture." Is that what it's about? Is it about Jeter's, very, very pristine reputation?
I think it's a portion of it is about that. Additionally, I think having Jeter been so involved in the New York media for so long, I'm sure there's probably an aspect of him feeling that maybe players' opinions or words were, in some cases, misconstrued. So the notion of having more transparency to be able to kind of voice their opinions on a platform was probably something that he definitively likely had some thought on or intrigue in being able to provide.
So when Derek Jeter did this, and he wants to say, this is a chance for the athletes to get their story straight. I pose this question. You're the expert on this. You've got a great resume in regards to everything you've done here. It's still not going to stop these athletes from tweeting, though. So does it really solve the problem? I mean,
not really. And again, I think, let's be honest. The content that's going to be on there is going to be information that's somewhat controlled. While it might be people's viewpoints and opinions, at the end of the day, I'm pretty confident that Derek Jeter is not going to want Adrian Peterson right now coming on and putting any type of information on directly related to his site. Because even though Adrian Peterson's taking to Twitter, at the end of the day, there's going to be a disparity between players kind of using that platform and obviously using the platform that Derek set up.
Talking to Ken Wisnefski, founder and CEO of the internet marketer WebiMax, and also done a lot of research on social media and the like, reputation management. Say what you will about Charles Barkley, Ken, but I think he said it best when he says, "I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on social media because I don't get paid for it, and all that can happen is something bad." Most of these athletes tweet without thinking, don't they?
No, it's definitely true. I mean, you see a lot of that. Again, I think they view it as a way to be able to kind of voice their thoughts, but oftentimes a lot of what we've seen has been decisions to tweet something in a time maybe where it was right after a game or after something that happened. So a lot of times what they say is probably in the heat of the moment, and then, how many Twitter apologies have we seen over the course of time where people go back and say, well, it was the heat of the moment. I probably shouldn't have said it that way. I should have really thought about it. We see a lot of that and a lot less of basically what I would refer to as kind of transparency, people that are actually kind of speaking their mind but actually sticking with what they said.
But when you see people like, I'm going to use the Barkley, for example, yeah, that may work for him now, but if you're somebody that's up and coming, you're alienating a big portion of your potential audience, aren't you, by ignoring Twitter? So I don't want to say you have to partake in these social media, but, authenticity to me is one of the biggest things, eras that we live in right now. It's one of the biggest words. That has credit. I mean, the younger generation wants to see that, don't they, or am I wrong?
No, I mean, I think that's kind of expected a little bit more now is the ability to have fans have more access into the thoughts of whether it's celebrities or athletes is something that they're really looking for. And, yeah, Barkley comes from a generation where it wasn't really involved with what he does, and he has a platform. He still does all of the NBA games. You see him all the time. Mm-hmm. So he has a platform to speak his mind when he wants to freely. As you referenced, some of the younger up-and-coming players, they don't really have that platform to be able to speak their mind as frequently.
So with Derek Jeter's venture, because Twitter, only allows, 140 characters, it's nearly impossible for an athlete to actually get his true thoughts out, and that's why Jeter has put together this new online venture, the Players Tribune, so they can actually say what they want to say in full form and not have it twisted, misconstrued, or just portions of what they say utilized. I think that's the biggest thing that happens to athletes. A small portion of what they may say to a reporter or to somebody in the media gets isolated and then blown out of proportion. No,
it definitely does. I think that's probably how oftentimes stories are started. Though the media is looking for somebody to kind of say something that's going to have readers want to kind of view it more and talk about it more. And sometimes, let's be honest, I mean, we see a lot of the different players nowadays, and they're very scripted. They say the same type of things over and over again. That's why when a Richard Sherman or somebody comes along and actually speaks their mind, people are just kind of blown away with the honesty and the fact that they're trash talking on national TV or whatever the case might be, because it's just not something we see that frequently.
Ken Wisnefski on the line. You can follow him on Twitter, founder and CEO of WebiMax. Also, you've done stuff for Wired. You've been on MSNBC, Fox News. The list goes on. Who are some of the better athletes that you do see on social media, Ken?
I think LeBron James is probably one of the guys that's really enhanced his brand through social media. Look, he's pretty controlled on there. Nothing, there's never really been any instances where you've really kind of left with your jaw dropping wide open after he's tweeted something. But he does give you a lot of insight into his thoughts and a lot of the things that kind of go on there. So, I think he's somebody who's done a nice job with it. But at the same time, he's someone who's really done a nice job of really understanding that he is a brand, and his brand is really important. And, he keeps it somewhat controlled. He keeps it somewhat close to the vest, but at the same time, he puts enough out there to keep people intrigued, where he's not just putting out really generic facts and things that aren't going to really interest people. So he's done a nice job of really embracing it, but really building more up around the brand that he is.
Yeah, I like what Jeter said, too, when he launched the Players Tribune. By the way, thePlayersTribune.com is how you can find Jeter's new venture. But I like what he said with regard to, I do think fans deserve more than no comments or I don't know. And that's what we want. We want these guys to speak. I think most everyone loved it when Richard Sherman started screaming when Aaron Andrews put the microphone in his face. It's better than just saying, yeah, we did our best, and it was a team effort, and we got the win.
Well, at the time, people jumped all over him for that.
Some did, not everybody.
More of the world did. He was under scrutiny big time on Twitter and things like that. But I'm with you. I'd like to see him say more things, but we jump all over him, don't we, Ken?
We tend to, but at the same time, again, I think you're going to start to see more of the voice of the athletes coming out. And again, I can't really say that Jeter's concept is going to be to the degree that maybe they're kind of making it out to be, because, again, I think it's going to be somewhat controlled. I think it's going to be somewhat topics that are kind of maybe not as, controversial, and I think that, while there's going to be different things that people are going to put on there that are going to be maybe thought-provoking, I'd liken it to kind of a magazine that's a little bit more cleaned up, a little bit more polished, and I think that there's still always going to be that opportunity out there for Twitter or some other platform to come along that's really going to get that kind of raw, emotional response from athletes that I don't think you're going to see on the Players Tribune.
Yeah. Talking to Ken Wisnefski of WebiMax, and he also is an expert on social media and reputation management. Look into your crystal ball, Ken. Is there an evolution to social media you see that needs to happen, or is it just it's going to stay the way it is?
I think you're only going to see it become more ingrained in society in general. I think we've already started to see how nowadays social media is really breaking news stories even before some of the major news channels are. People are hearing about it via social media first,
right,
and then it's appearing on the major news channels. So I think you've got to really consider that social media is something that, while it's probably going to change in its facets and how we engage with it, at the end of the day, the immediacy and the fact that it's so available to all of us, and it provides everybody that opportunity to have their 15 minutes of fame. It really is something that I think is really much more ingrained in society.
Which social media site not named Twitter do you think has the best chance of getting hot here in the next 5 years?
That is a good question. I think, I think that there's people are going to end up starting to kind of drop off Facebook a little bit, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think that platform is there yet. It's going to take, it's somebody's developing it, but too many of them have come up quick and kind of disappeared. Something else is going to probably be able to kind of combine that, but I don't think it's here yet. I think that the few that are here are pretty ingrained, and I'm sure there's more on the horizon.
Yeah, you know what? I think Snapchat is so popular because the picture goes away.
Kids figured out pretty quickly how to keep those pictures and realized that a lot of those pictures that they were sending weren't going away after 8 seconds.
Yeah.
So, I think that's why that one is losing its cool factor pretty quickly.
Screenshots. Talking to Ken Wisnefski. Again, because of the immediacy, because of what social media gives us, and we get instant news. We find out about things here in Indiana, like Frank Vogel's contract extension, first on Twitter before we see it anywhere else in any other outlet. The immediacy is the same reason why certain athletes who don't think first get in trouble and tweet the wrong things or send out the wrong Instagram pic or whatever the case may be.
No, absolutely. It goes on all the time, and I think a lot of times they let emotions get better of them, and just want to be able to put their thoughts out there, and in turn, this is where a lot of the apologies come back. But I mean, think about it. The colleges now are really looking to have the college athletes really refrain from Twitter to a large degree because they kind of feel that only negative can come from it, and I think a good case for that was really Johnny Manziel when he was finishing up his career last year in college. He was kind of all over social media, and then just kind of shut down. And then once he was kind of finishing up his career at Texas A&M, suddenly he was back all over social media. So, I think that it's becoming much more something that colleges are paying attention to, the professional athletes are paying attention to. And, I think there's a lot to be said about, the fact they probably need some schooling, if you will, in the best ways to approach it.
Yeah, Ken, I found out that if I type it and then delete it before it's sending it, I feel better instantly. Absolutely.
Well, that's good. Maybe you should teach everybody about that.
Well, before we let you go, we've got you on here. I mean, you're well known in this world, so we've got to get a pro tip for our listeners. We know a lot of our listeners, at work in their businesses. If stuff starts to go wrong on your social media site, give one pro tip to the businesses listening.
Oh, that's a tough one, but I guess the best thing to do, there's really two options. One, just face it head on and kind of give your best overview about what you thought happened and hope for forgiveness. Or the other option is just delete all your accounts.
You can always do the old standby. I was hacked.
Yeah.
Yep.
The intern did it.
That isn't a viable one anymore. That's been used too frequently.
Yeah. Ken Wisnefski, we appreciate your time, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Great talking to you.
You too.
Hey, you too.
Ken
Wisnefski of WebiMax, CEO and founder of the company, which obviously deals with marketing, but he's also an expert on social media and reputation management. Our company's no different than colleges, than NFL teams, pro teams, where when social media started to take off in a grand way, maybe more so with Twitter than ever because of the instantaneous nature of it all, everybody had to go, boy, we better put some guidelines together. This thing's taken off. So some people are still on catch-up mode on taking off on do's and don'ts with social media, specifically Twitter and Facebook.
I mean, it's the Wild West still, and I always try to put it into a little bit of perspective. What are they going to say about how we handled the internet and the social media 50, 75, 100 years from now, when everybody's complete experts and born as an expert? You know what I mean? They're going to look back at us and, is this like us on a horse and carriage?